Hi guys, the name is Mark and I want to do a little video here and we're going to basically call this, it's all highway robbery to steal everything you own, including your life's energy, okay? So welcome to the spiritual warfare energy money extraction matrix. You look at matrix and you have ma and tricks, or you take the M out and you have a and tricks, okay? So there's tricks going on, and this should tell you that with a word like tricks, they just don't spell it Tricks, they spell it Trix, right? Like the cereal, trick cereal, right? So it's all basically Sun Tzu conquer and divide tactics, okay? And this is a 66 little page book that nobody cares to read, and everybody wonders why we live in a society so CI where nothing makes sense. And all these people will tell you, well, everything is complicated because of this and because of that. I'm going to tell you something, people. The truth is never complicated, and the soul you tie on, the solution, is always simpler than the problem. So anytime you listen to, like, say, the US government, they're saying, oh, we have to raise our debt ceiling because if we don't, we're going to default. So these bankers, these band kings, banking, they own everything, and then thus us as a people in the government, we are forced to borrow money off these people for our existence. Existence. X is never good. X is a blemish, okay? So I just wanted to share this with you. And everything is a war. Like, you look at spell in the dictionary and it simply says that it's a curse. They call it cursive writing. They'll offer you a sentence. It might be a death sentence. It might be a life sentence. Is this the kind of sentence structure that you learned in school? Obviously not, because you're in a spell. They call it spelling. Okay, spell in, just add a G, okay? So unfortunately, with all this stuff, it's all highway robbery to steal everything you own, including your life's energy. So basically, once again, welcome to the spiritual warfare, fair of war and fair, right? Energy, money extraction matrix, right? So basically, you look at words like warfare, backward, take the D out, back war, rear words, take the D and the S out, rear war, right? So everything is a war. And I want to share something with you guys because, like, you have words like warlock, awkward, right? Warlock, locked in a war, awkward, take the D out, war, right? Bulwark, right? Bulwar, right? Swarthy, are you being swarthy, right? War. You have skyward, right? Sky war, maybe Star Wars. See where I'm going with this? These people know a lot of things, and they're they're laughing at us because basically, what is cannon fodder? Cannon fodder is the first row of, say, militants that will go into battle, and they will wind up getting blown up by cannonballs. And the powers that be, they're aware of this and they laugh at us, and that's why they give militants, illitants, right? Everything's ill in this society, right? And they give these militants dog tags. Now, why would they give them dog tags, right? Wouldn't a dog wear a dog tag? So why are humans or people running around wearing dog tags? So this is no disrespect to the military, but that I've had a few family members that were in the armed services and all this stuff, and so basically it's no disrespect, but like, an army is fine if you're using it to protect your people on your land and your soil. But the minute you start sending armies overseas to fight wars and stuff, right? Well, now you're just an empire of evil, okay? There's a difference in protecting yourself, which you have the grace to do, but there's also a difference when you don't have the grace to go overseas and start killing people for, their resources and stuff like this, right? So everything in the society deals with war, and all these governments are warlike stratocracies, okay? So everything deals with war with them. That's why you have an attorney general, a governor general. These are all generals of an army, okay, people? So for a joke, I Googled all these words, and I Googled words with the word war in it. And this is probably just a rough estimation, but it come up with 594 words. Now, if you take the D and S out of words, you have a war. You look at sword, nowadays the pen is mightier than the sword. And if you take the S out of sword, you have word. You take the S and D out of sword, and you have war. Okay? So that's why nowadays the pen is mightier than the sword, because people got tired of running around doing hand to hand combat, shooting each other and trying to stab each other with swords. So now we have, instead of a war with swords, now we have a war with words, okay, people? And everybody's in a spell, and you look up spell in the dictionary and it says it's a curse. And you just add an IN and a G to it, and you have spelling, and everybody goes, no, no, that's not what that means. You have to look at one word at a time, and sometimes one word is comprised of a couple of words, like pillage. You have pill and age of the pill if you reverse the supposition. You take the P out of pill and you have ill age. Now, meanwhile, everybody lives in a vil age, and you take the V out and you have ill age of the ill. So everything is basically warfare, and it's straight out of Sun Tzu, and it's conquer and divide. And so now what we have is a war of words, right? And everybody's effectively killing each other with a war of words because nobody can agree. Uh, Somebody likes Trump and somebody doesn't like Trump, and they will literally fight each other and go to war, and families will split up and break up because somebody likes Trump and somebody likes Biden. Can you see how preposterous this is? So now we have a war of words, okay, people? And, you know, it's basically, we live in the age of the mess. It's a mess age, right? And, you know, you look at all these words, and like you have stewardess, reward, take the D out, rewar. You know, you have a rant for war, right? Inwardness. Do you have a war inside your head? Inwardness, right? You know, everything is back to, like, you're dealing with war and you're dealing with skills. You take the S out of skill and you have kill. You take the kill out of kill, the K out of kill, and you have ill. So do you have the skills to pay the bills? Do you have the kills to pay the bills? Right? You can see where I'm going with this. So are these skills or kills or ills that you want in your life? Right? Obviously not. And so, you know, back to pillage, you take the P out and you have ill age, right? And at the same time, we all live in a vil age, and you take the V out and you have ill age of the ill. And if you add another V to a V, you have a W in French, right? A W, a W, and you have will age. So now you have age of the will, or will age, and you take the W out and you're back to ill age. So do you live in the atmosphere, right? Obviously, a lot of people are in fear. And meanwhile, they'll live in, like, states in the states, and like they don't even look at the words, and maybe they live in misery, right? Like, it's we, but that's not the way that's pronounced, and somebody will argue and fight with you because they're hooked on what they've been taught. Okay. So maybe you live in Illinois, ill in noise. You will be ill if there's a lot of noise around you. The mind is supposed to be quiet. The mind's not supposed to be full of noise and white noise and garbage and stuff, right? So with all this stuff, you know, like, even say, for example, we talk about, like, people have made money their god. If I were to ask you what the biggest religion in the world is, everybody would list all these religions like Judaism, Christianity, and Muslim, and all this stuff. And that's not the biggest religion. This is how hard you've been hoodwinked. The biggest religion in the world is money. Okay? And so when you understand this, like, people will kill for money. They will wreck people's lives by dealing fentanyl to them. You know, so there's a war with words in the world, and you take the L and the D out of world, and you have war. People, I can't make this shit up. Hence, you'll have movies on TV called, like, The War of the Worlds, and nobody pays attention to this stuff, right? And, you know, back to money being everybody's god, people have made Mammon, their god, instead of the universal cosmic creator, waitress, their god, right? And then they'll deal with all this money on the stock exchange. So now you're getting exchanged, right? So that's not good. You're not getting more change, you're getting exchanged, right? And like you'll get exchanged at your expense. Pence was the British form of currency to be franc. Franc was the French form of currency. All of these people use words and they don't even understand why they're using these words or these sayings. Like, somebody, like, are you getting horny? Why would people use expressions like this? Are you growing horns out of your head, right? Are you horny for some woman? You can see where I'm going with this. And oh, she makes me so horny. So what are you saying? She's bringing out the devil in you. And if you remove the D out of devil and you want evil, just take the D out and you have evil, right? You reverse the supposition of evil and you have live. You look at love and you reverse the supposition and you have evil, right? So these are basically like anagrams, and that's why nowadays the sword, you take the S out of sword and the D out and the S, and you have war. So you take the S out of sword and you have words. So now we're at a war of words because people got tired of going into battle with guns and swords in hand-to-hand combat and literally killing each other. You look at militant, right? You look at the first word, mill. Are you part of a mill? If you're getting milled, that's usually not a good thing. They'll process you like a piece of processed cheese. Now, this is no disrespect to service members and stuff. I have nothing but the utmost respect for them. But the minute any time you're used to go overseas to fight a war that you should not be fighting, you're basically cannon fodder, okay, people? And there's a difference of having an army to protect your actual own nation, say in case somebody wants to invade you. But aside from that, you don't need wars, you don't need armies, and that is that, okay? So this is no disrespect to people because people have been hoodwinked and programmed to think things that they aren't actually are, right? It's boy, that's a mouthful. So like, like for a joke, like everybody, back to the stock exchange, you're getting exchanged, right? You go to war, you're getting exchanged, right? Like you look at the words, best regards. Why is somebody regarding something, right? So it's a message and it's the age of the mess, right? And all these words, stewardess, reward. Are you being rewarded for war, right? Take the D out, re and war. Inwardness, do you have a war inside your mind, right? Maybe you live in Illinois and this is why you have an inward war inside your head, right? Like, even like heavenward, heaven, war, take the D out, right? So, all this stuff, people, is cat shit crazy, and it's basically all highway robbery to steal everything you own, including your life's energy. And again, welcome to the spiritual warfare energy money extraction matrix, right? And this is all Sun Tzu conquer and divide tactics, right? So you look at these words, skills, you got the skills to pay the B ills. Everything is ill in this society, like skills. Take the S out of skill, you have kill. Take the K out, you got the skills to pay the bills, you got the kills to pay the bills, headshots, right? Take the K out of kill and you have ill. And then you're with words like pillage, ill age, village, ill age, right? Atmosphere, maybe you live atmosphere, right? And you live in Illinois, maybe you live in Hellas, Spain, take the S out of Spain, and you have pain. So all you have to do, people, is simply look at the words, and this will take you out of the spell. And when you realize that this whole language, land gauge, is a crock of shit, then you're free, and you don't have to go down these rabbit holes to try to learn all this nonsense, right? So I just wanted to share this with you because the whole thing is just basically it's a criminal empire, and now the pen is mightier than the sword, and you can literally kill people with a pen. I'll write on this piece of paper that you deserve to die and you're a criminal, and now you have a death sentence. So with a stroke of a pen, right? That's why stores are open for business. Where would they put an inmate? They would put him in a jail cell, and you take the J out of jail, and you have ale, perhaps an ailment, right? And you add an M to ailment, and you have mailment. You take the T out and you have mailmen. These mailmen, these ailments, would drop off B-ills to you in the mail. And if you couldn't afford to pay your B-ills, you would become thus ill. You see where I'm going with this, people? So all these words, and like for a joke, I Googled words that had war in it, and it come up with 594 words. Take the DNS out, or the DO, 594 wars, because all these governments are warlike stratocracies, okay, people? I can't make this up, and that's why nowadays the pen is mightier than the sword, and you take the S out of sword, and we have word. So you're back to a war of words, okay, people? It's like me writing on this piece of paper, you can't do this and you can't do that, and it's all a crock of shit. And people say, but we have a constitution and we have rights. Well, you look at right, and if I were to write on a piece of paper, well, then it's a right. I have written on it in, you know what I mean, in the past tense. And so now your rights are derived from a piece of paper. Can you see how preposterous this is, people? This is the bombardment of society, society, and you are being bombarded with this. You take the B out of brainwashing and you have rainwashing, and basically you have wash, rinse, repeat, wash, rinse, repeat, wash, rinse, repeat. These people will put you in a spell, and they'll, like there's a commercial where they go, liberty, 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 right? They'll say things 3 or 4 times because they are programming you, which you should not allow yourself to be programmed with. And you look at liberty and it says lie, be, are, tie. And then they go to vote for these demonstrators, and you look at demonstrators and you have demons and traitors, right? So you're voting for a demonstrator, a demonstrator, right? Do you see how preposterous this is? And then, for example, like to vote, like I like Biden and you don't, and you like Trump and I don't. And so now we have a war of words on who's going to vote for who. And now, instead of God's will being done, now we're trying to impose our wills on each other by, like, I don't like you if you like Trump. I don't like you if you like Biden. You know, I like you if you like Trump. I like you if you like Biden, or vice versa. I don't like you if you like Biden and you don't like Trump. You see where I'm going with this, people? So now I'm going to go to a polling station to vote for a politician, okay, so that your politician doesn't get elected. And they call this democracy, and demo is short for demolish, right? And demo, right? And we have a demonocracy here, and people say, well, you know, we have to protect democracy. Democracy doesn't work. It never has worked. And again, you're back to a spell in, thinking that democracy works. We were never supposed to have a democracy. We were never supposed to have demonstrators. We were never supposed to have wars. We were never supposed to live in a world of the message, age of the mess age. Just look at the words. And everybody's trying to kill each other with, now, instead of using swords, you take the S out and they're using words, and they're literally killing each other with it. You know, you have parents that hate their children and they will bastardize their children with a war of words with them. Like, you're going to grow up and you're going to be a bum and you're never going to be no good and you're never going to amount to anything. Can you see how this is a war of words? Can you see this, people? Like, not an ounce of this shit is mine, and I can't make it up. So if you really want to come out of the spell, like I see all these people, like they'll send me things like, did you see this? And did you see that? And it's like, why would I have to look at it? I know it's a war of words. Every war I look at deals with death, destruction, war, pill age, ill age, will age, Vil age, age of the ill, right? You know, what is a V? A W, 2 V's, right? Have will and age. And it's not supposed to be your will, your ill that is being done. It's supposed to be the Creator's will that shall be done, okay? Thine will be done, not my will. If I were to impose my will on you and take the ill out, then I'm imposing ill on you. You can see how how this just creates a bastardization of society, and you're almost back to telling your children, I don't know why you're going to school. You never went to school to begin with before. You're just going to grow up to be a bum. Nah, 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 nah. And now you're basically beating down your kids with words, wars, take the D out, and it's absurd, right? So I just wanted to share this with you people. Stop arguing with people. Give up the right to be right. Like, well, I'm right, you're wrong, and heaven forbid, and I'll kill you. This is how people are. Look at the tale of Jesus. They killed the guy because he came out and said, whoa, wait a second here. Everybody is being selfish. They're selling fish, and now they're being greedy, and I'm sure we can all agree to that. Greed, look at the words, A and greed. You were not supposed to sell fish to your fellow man. You were supposed to give a fish or teach that guy or girl how to fish, right? So we live in a whole society where everything's been bastardized, and it's just basically a war of words. And people don't understand that they are illing everybody with these words. They're killing everybody, kill in, right? Ill in. And we live in the age of the pillage, right? And everything is back to Sun Tzu, where it's conquer and divide. And if you want to be at war with somebody, you don't pretend, I wouldn't pretend like I'm your enemy and come at you trying to kill you right off the hop. No, I would buddy up to you. I would get your nation hooked on coke, hooked on fentanyl, hooked on heroin, and I would watch you guys destroy your society from within by bringing in all these drugs. And even looking at drugs, you can't even so much as smuggle a joint through an international airport, but yet all these drugs conveniently come into the countries, and then you have a department like in the States called the Drug Enforcement Agency. So they're telling you that they're enforcing the fact that they want drugs in society, but nobody pays an ounce of attention to this. Back to these politicians. They're demo rats. Sorry, Democrats. Take the C out. You have demo rats. And why would they use a term like all these rats are jumping ship now? People use terms and they don't even know where they come from. Like, are you horny? Why are you growing horns out of your head? Right? Can you see where I'm going with this? It's like, do you want to be in charge? Right? Well, charge is it's a voltage term for electricity. You have a positive charge and you have a negative charge. So do you want to be in charge? And then meanwhile, people run around saying, is your boat afloat? Right? Do you have a float in your cash register? Why would they use terms like this? Because they're on the seas of commerce. Is your boat afloat? Why would you ask somebody if their boat is afloat, or if they have a float in their till, and you take the T out of till and you have ill? And then everybody's trying to be in charge, and they're trying to manipulate and manage aged men by being their managers. Would you like to be a manager? Again, you're supposed to allow people to gracefully age. This is the will of the Creator, and should not be the ill of man. And you look around and we just have such a sick, bastardized society where nobody can even admit the fact that they're in a spell. We even live in a society where people are scared to talk about things for fear of, in the atmosphere of being arrested for speaking their mind, when supposedly, you're supposed to have freedom of speech, and clearly you don't have freedom of speech. And you look at freedom, do you want to be dumb to be free? Right? Obviously not. And then people say, well, we have freedom of speech because people wrote this on a piece of paper and our forefathers, our ancestors said so. So because I tell you something, this makes it right? You can see how preposterous this is. It's like these heretics. They believe in, and you take the V and E out of believe, and you have belie. So they belie and they believe and say Jesus is coming to save us, and then you say, how do you know there's a Jesus? Well, I know because everybody told me so, right? So you've never physically experienced seeing this guy. You were never around when this guy came onto the planet, but yet everybody believes in, and you look at belief and you take the F out and you're back into belie. So everything is a lie. It's a message, and everything is always taking out of context, and people are running around saying things like, why are you horny? Are you in charge? Do you want to be in charge? Oh, stop being so negative. Why would they say this stuff? They don't even know why they're saying this stuff. Negative in electrical terms is a negative polarity. You have a positive and a negative. So are you being positive or are you being negative? Then we live in the age of the voltage, age of the volt. And then if you get out of hand, you'll be revolting, right? And what would they do with you? They would take you, you're comprised of cells, and they would throw you in a cell. You're comprised of billions of cells, and they would throw you in a cell and give you a rest. And what is an arrestor in electrical terms? It stops the electrical charge from flowing. So now you're in a jail cell and you cannot flow outside of that jail cell with your enemy. With your energy. So basically, people, you're walking radio stations slash batteries, battery cells, and that's why they will call it assault and battery. People, again, people use terms, they go to court too, and they don't even understand what they're talking about because they're in a spell. Like, you may use a word like bond, and you look up, and you know, they will bind you in a pair of handcuffs. You will be bound. Take the U out of bound and you have bond. So now you've been bonded to these handcuffs, and the whole thing, I'm losing my train of thought here a little bit, but the whole thing is just simply preposterous, you know, and you are a battery cell slash radio station, walking radio station, your spine is an antenna. So what are you tuned into? Do you want to be tuned into all these words like matrix, warfare, backward, take the D out, war, backward, rearward, take the S out, rear wars, you know, skills, kills, ills, pillage, village, atmosphere. You live in Illinois, right? You know, you live in a age of the ill. Do you want to live in a village? Honestly, is this where you people would like? And again, people use all these words and terms and they haven't got the foggiest clue what they're talking about, you know? So I just wanted to share this with you. This video might be a little deep for some people. It might not. Maybe they'll have to watch it again. But then you're back to cognitive dissonance. Like, you could literally say to somebody, this page is white and has writing on it in blue ink. And because they went to school and they've been programmed that, no, this is a page and it's not a page and it doesn't have blue ink. And you can even shower people with proof and they will argue with you, right? And all these people, they're all running around and they're experts, they're expert, they're not pro-per, right? And they will argue, like, you know, it's like the first rule of psychology. I am not inside of you, yet all these people who are not inside of you will tell you how you think. You see how preposterous this is? It's like a guy, until we've had the experience of learning something, right? You will never know because you've never had the experience. It's like you could say to people, like, whether, you know, like even women and men, or specifically more men, if you ever said, what's it like to have a baby? Even a guy, well, you know, I think it's like this. Really? You've never had the experience of having a child or a baby come out of your hips, and you look at hips, and that's an anagram for ship. Right? Another water term, and everybody runs around with a river's license, a driver's license, and take the D out, they're running around with a river's license. And why are they running around with a river's license when they're on land? This whole thing is fraud and it's preposterous. So I know effectively I'm babbling, but I hope this video finds you people well. And once you stop looking at the spell, now you're not going down a rabbit hole. You're not entering a world where it's a message and everything's taken out of context. And back to, like, if you ask some guy what it's like to have a baby, he's completely blowing smoke out of your ass. Like, well, you know, it's like this and it's like that. And the guy hasn't got the foggiest clue because he will never give birth. So until you've actually had the experience of something, you know nothing, and everybody's running around being an expert. It's like psychology. The first rule of psychology in my world is I am not inside of you, so who am I to tell you what you are thinking? And then you look at thinking and you have thin and king. So you're not as king, right? You're not as the king. You're not asking, right? You're now very thin because you're in the world war of, take the L and the D out, you're in the war of the mind, the message. And this is why people cannot get outwardly lie out of their heads. They are constantly of the mind and they are thinking thin kings, and they will spin themselves off into tangents of craziness and unhappiness, and then they need pills, and you take the peyote pill and you have ill, and then they want to live in a village and the whole thing, people. So getting back to even psychology, if I poured water on your hand and we had 100 people in this room, and I poured water on your hand and I asked the 100 people in this room, and I said, what does it feel like when I pour this bottle of water over this guy's hand? And you ask everybody questions, and well, it feels refreshing. Oh, that feels cold. Oh, that feels weird. Oh, that feels nice, right? Oh, that feels lukewarm. But meanwhile, did I pour water on any of your hands, on your wrist? No. And meanwhile, everybody's telling me and the guy that I poured water on his hand how he feels. Can you see how preposterous this is? How could you know how this guy feels when you're not inside him? Maybe he just doesn't like water being poured on his wrist or his hand, period, right? And everybody's going around, oh, that feels so nice, that feels so refreshing, oh, that's cold to the touch. You see how preposterous this is, people? And this is the world we live in, where we have a war of words, and we have a war of the worlds, and you take the L and D and S out, and we have a war of a war. Right? They might call it Star Wars. And what would you call your kids? Youngsters. They are young stars. And what would you give your young star in school? You would give him a golden star, or her a golden star. We call them sisters, right? Because we're basically effectively cosmic stardust, right? Ashes to ashes and dust to dust you are, and that's where you shall go. Even people use this term like, wake up, wake up, wake up. Are you woke? Are you woke? They don't even know what they're saying. Awake is a water term from the back of a ship. What would they bury an individual in? Awake. You would go to awake. And everybody would say, oh, now we're mourning. But you'll say, good morning, just out of you, morning. So are you mourning, right? So again, all these people are talking a language and they're running around saying, wake up, wake up. Well, basically, you're using ill will, your will, against them by imposing the fact that they should wake up. We have to understand that everybody comes around at their own pace, their own speed, and should enlightenment hit them and they realize that the whole world is a mess, we live in the age of the mess, the message, and everything is completely taken out of context. And again, con and text has two words, con and text. Why are you dealing with cons who write text on a piece of paper and then with a stroke of a pen, they can charge you for assault and battery because you are a walking battery and give you a life sentence or a death sentence in jail? So people don't even know their sentence structure. They're not even aware of their sentence structure. You were told not to run around and swear, answer, and curse, and they call this cursive writing. And you have been cursed. If you take the O out of course, you have cursed. So you're going to school thinking that you're learning a course while you're getting cursed, and they will call this a spell, right? And then they will say, well, your rights come from a piece of paper called the Constitution. Cons tie you ion, right? Maybe your ions of the atmosphere, but you people don't realize this, and you're back to Constitution? Cons? Tie? That doesn't sound good. And then we're voting for demonstrators?